plus an economist's walk with the Apostle Paul, how it changed his life, and how it can change yours as well. Up next, our next guest has a history in finance and deep roots in his Christian religion.
That's right. He's going to be sitting down with us and talks about his book, Ambushed, and the inspiration behind it. That's coming up next. Welcome back to Live at 9.
And in this segment, we introduce you to an author who writes about how people react to life-changing events.
Ambushed, that's the title of the book. It goes inside a man's life who is dealing with crime along with other problems.
Author Wil Tustin is here to explain what the story Ambushed is all about. Wil, good to see you. Welcome.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Corey.
Let's start just with the title itself. Why this title in particular?
Actually, I was struggling with the title, and a friend of mine suggested to use a one-word title.
Ambush.
Ambush, like right. Unbroken. You know, it just kind of has more of an action to it since it's a verb in one word. So one of the reasons why I wrote the book is it's, first of all, it's a historical fiction with a message. It's on the life of Paul the Apostle. It's the first of a trilogy. So it has a lot of biblical insights in it, and it also has some of the secrets of life in it also.
Yeah, a lot of people may also be kind of wondering, though, we're talking about religion, and also your background, though, is also in finance. Do they kind of go hand in hand, or how do they kind of weave together in this instance?
Alex, I don't think they really weave together too well. You know, it's been kind of interesting because a lot of people have worked for a Fortune 500 company and been an economist at State University for several years. So a lot of people know me from that standpoint. So it's been kind of interesting because they found out more of a spiritual life that I have to my side than they may be aware of. Because when you write a book like this, you know, I think people kind of become aware of what your spiritual thoughts and your spiritual beliefs are.
So did you feel in your personal life you were ambushed? I mean, because that's a very strong title to have, and to have it as named as one of your books. So what happened in your life that propelled you to go, this is it, and I'm going to go ahead and write this?
Yeah, well, Corey, it's kind of interesting because I feel Paul was ambushed in his life on the way to Damascus. And I was ambushed probably about 6-7 years ago with a life-threatening disease. And the treatment that I had to take for 1.5 years, the two main side effects of it were depression and suicidal tendencies. So I felt like I really needed to find someone that had really struggled in life, went through some difficult times, and was able to overcome them. And my studies led me to Paul the Apostle, and that's what kind of led me to writing the book.
Also, Wil, you see Paul as being one of the most influential people to ever live, period. Why do you kind of view him that way?
Well, you know, Alex, I think that time ripens and reveals all things, especially a person's character and the truth. And if you look over the centuries and millenniums, a lot of books have been written about Paul. I mean, the moral standards that he taught over the last 21 centuries are still at the center of society today. And then also the controversies in society today are kind of centered around some of his moral teachings also. And, you know, it's just the facets of his life. I mean, here's a guy who was a terrorist, he was a persecutor, and he was a murderer, and then he becomes one of the most outstanding teachers that we have, and a missionary, and just a very devout person with so many facets in his life. I mean, just multiple facets in his life. I mean, he was a very polarizing figure. I mean, either, you know, you thought he was one of the best, most gracious individuals to live, or you either kind of despised him.
And you wrote this book in first person.
I did.
Why did you want to go in that direction?
Well, I wanted to give people a sense that they were walking through life with Paul. And my friends that have read it and people that have read it said, like, I felt like I was in the first century with Paul. You know, I experienced the things that he experienced. And for example, a good friend of mine in Chicago who is a writer, he read the book and he said, Wil, he says, I never realized how little I knew about the Bible. I never read the Bible in my life. He was an atheist, and is an atheist, and so he went out and he bought a copy of the Bible. And I just heard from him a couple days ago, and he says, I'm reading Genesis, and it's tough to get through, but I'm going to try to get through it.
Wow.
Are you surprised to get reactions like that, though, when people have had a chance to actually read your book?
Yeah, I think so, Alex. I mean, for another story, a good friend of mine in Nashville, he's a musician up there, and I went out and had dinner with him a couple weeks ago, and he knew that I'd written the book, so he hadn't bought it yet. I gave him a copy, actually, because he was a friend, but he says, Wil, before I came to see you tonight, I had to Wikipedia Paul the Apostle because I had no idea who he is, and this is a 40-year-old gentleman, so I'm just hoping to create some awareness. I wanted to structure it like a novel so that people would read it. There's a lot of good books out there, but they're kind of written for biblical scholars scholars and for, sort of theologians. But this is written for even a 5-year-old, 12-year-old child to read and kind of just learn. There's some nuggets in there to enlighten even the biblical scholars, but it's written for an easy read.
An easy read, but also thought-provoking at the same time.
I hope so.
Okay.
I hope so, Alex.
Well, thank you very much for your time. The book is called Ambushed.
Yes.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.